Judge, would it be permissible to sit in the jury box?
That's fine. All right, Mr. Bradley, Deputy Scott will swear you in again. I do.
Terrence Bradley, T-E-R-E-N-C-E, Bradley, B-R-A-D-L-E-Y. That was the inaccuracy that I saw that jumped out, was the fact that I saw that I was left out when you template the firm the money was. I did not when I responded to that, it was for that specific reason.
Okay. And I agreed I would put that back in, that section back in, and
Correct.
I did put it back in, and I sent it to you again.
I don't recall getting a second email from you now.
But you were happy that I put it back in, or that I agreed to put it back in.
And object this to relevance.
Yeah, we need to get to more material aspects.
Oh, yes, Judge, I'm moving along, I promise. So you did ask me to put that back in.
Well,
And answered relevance.
well, you didn't answer that last question, so overruled.
You did. Can you confirm you did ask me to put that back in? For it to be accurate?
Yes, that's correct. I said that. Yes.
Okay. And then I asked you if everything was accurate, and you said, looks good. Correct?
I recall you asking that, but the looks good was applying to the accuracy of the 74,000. That's it.
Okay. So when you reviewed the motion, and you specifically pointed out that one thing that you found inaccurate, you didn't point anything else out that you found inaccurate in that motion, though, correct?
No, I did not.
And that motion alleged that their relationship began when Ms. Willis was in municipal court.
If I can reread the motion, but I don't recall. But if that's what it says, but I did my saying that it looks good was when you put back in the 74,000 into your motion.
Okay, and that wasn't what I was asking. What I was asking is, you didn't tell me that there was anything else inaccurate in the motion, though, right?
But I didn't say that anything was accurate other than the 74,000.
Now, when I told you that I had this motion that I was preparing, you asked me to send a rough draft.
No, that's incorrect.
I approach, Judge.
Come in. Which page are you showing?
It's on page number. It's January 6th. Yeah, of course. Just all the text. Let's see if this one actually. So, we had been talking and you asked me to send you a rough draft, and I told you, okay, but I didn't want it to be leaked before I filed it. Right?
That is correct. That is correct.
So you're the one that asked me to send a rough draft.
Yes, that's correct. Yeah, yes, that's correct.
And that was at 10:08 on Saturday, January 6th. And then you got an email from me with that rough draft at 10:25 that same day, correct?
Yes.
You need to look at it.
If it says 10:25, then I know you sent me an email. While he's looking at it, I'm going to object this to ask the name. We've been through the fact that he sent him a copy of the motion, whether he specifically said rough draft or not, and then asked about the accuracy. He's explained
his answer, and I didn't ask an answer.
Understood, Mr. Bud. We're getting there. Overruled for now.
And then I responded when we were talking about that footnote that we were just talking about. I said I took it out, but I can add it back, and you said yes, add it back. You remember that?
I answered that, yes.
And then I said anything else, anything that isn't accurate, and you responded looks good. You recall that?
Let me see the...
And there, I don't know where the exhibits are. They were admitted. Refresh your memory?
It says looks good, but as I stated before, I was responding to you putting me back into the motion for receiving $74,000 in a contract.
Well, that's not what this says. This says, you said yes, add it back, and then I said anything else, anything that isn't accurate, and you responded looks good. So you weren't responding to put it back in.
I'm going to object. This is not his motion. He wasn't the applicant of the motion to verify.
Overruled, Mr. Bud.
Talking about his personal knowledge.
I've said twice.
Overruled, Mr. Bud.
I've said twice that the looks accurate was, or I've said more than twice, was for the $74,000.
Do you remember telling me about Nathan and Fani coming to your office and spending time together at your office?
No, I mentioned, I do recall testifying on the 16th that she had come to our office.
And that was before she was elected as district attorney, correct?
I recall that was when she was district attorney. Because I said that there was a meeting held at my office.
And who was at that meeting?
I can't tell you that. I don't recall.
But you know Miss Willis was there, Mr. Wade was there.
It was at our office. Actually, Miss Willis was there, and there were other people there. Mr. Wade was not in that meeting. He was in the back. I wasn't even in that meeting.
Why did she hold it at your office then?
I have no idea.
You also remember telling me about them spending time together at her law office before she took her job.
I don't recall. Do you? I don't recall. Do you have something to?
Well, what I'm asking is, let's back up a second. So Ms. Willis rented a law office from the Evans firm, or Andrew Evans and another lawyer, I think Stacey Evans. You have knowledge of that, correct?
No, I object to your saying.
Well,
How does he know the information? That would be the correct question.
Okay. Ms. Mershon.
I don't really know even how to respond to that. Hearsay, I'm asking if he knew that she rented
Yeah,
offices.
he may have been there.
Right.
He may have seen a business card or something at some point. I think he can answer that.
I've never been to Miss Willis's office when she was in private practice. I've never dealt with where she rented. I didn't even know where her office was. So,
Do you remember, though, knowing that she rented an office
yes.
from the Evans?
Yes.
You didn't know
Yes,
that?
that is correct. Yes.
Okay. And do you remember telling me that Mr. Wade and Miss Willis would rendezvous at that office?
I'm going to object to, again, hearsay as to how he knows that information. He said he has no personal knowledge.
He did not say he has no personal knowledge, Judge. He hasn't even answered it.
No, he said in general he had no personal knowledge, so it's not been established the source of how he would know this because he said he's never been to her office.
All right. Ms. Mershon, if I know you're trying to impeach him by a prior inconsistent statement, but unless you can first back up and show why each statement is actually something that you have knowledge of, I don't know if this is going to be relevant.
And Judge, I'm not even there yet, but again, a speaking objection, and so now I would anticipate what our response is going to be next. I didn't ask anything that was objectionable, but these objections are coaching the witness. I asked if he had knowledge. That's it. I didn't ask, did someone say this to you? I didn't ask, what did this person tell you? I asked if you knew.
Well, no, you're asking if you have knowledge, and then you say of something specific. So,
Once I get an answer to that, if he has knowledge, then I will follow up with where that knowledge came
all
from.
right, well, let's try again.
So my question is, do you have knowledge of them meeting at that office?
Objection. Foundation.
Okay. All right. Overruled.
Do you have knowledge of them meeting at that office?
I have no personal knowledge, if that's what you're asking.
I didn't ask that yet. I asked if you have any knowledge.
Objection. That would be hearsay.
Overruled.
Not if it came from
We
Mr.
don't
Wade,
know where it
Judge.
came from. So he said, how do you know, Mr. Bradley?
How do you know?
Any knowledge that I would have received would have come from my client at the time.
Okay, so you had knowledge of this place that Miss Willis worked. What did you know about them meeting at that office?
Objection. Hearsay.
It's not hearsay, Judge.
How he knows it, and then you ask the next question.
All right. He's already asked the next question.
Can you repeat the question?
Yes. How do you have knowledge? What knowledge did... Well, you just told us. You told us Mr. Wade told you. So tell us what Mr. Wade told you about Miss Willis and Mr. Wade meeting at the Evans office.
Objection, Your Honor, privilege. This clearly covers the time after December 2018 that would be covered by privilege.
Yeah. Overruled. Do you recall the question, Mr. Brad?
I do not.
You re-asked the question, Ms. Burge.
What did you learn from Mr. Wade? I can clarify that's where you learned it from. About Mr. Wade and Miss Willis meeting at the Evans office together.
I don't object to ask and answer. He's testified that
He hasn't answered. We haven't heard an answer.
he testified he had one conversation with Mr. Wade in the back of his law office.
Yeah, but his answer may change. So
Tip him
overruled.
off as to how to answer the question.
I can't recall what the conversation was. I do recall knowing that he would go down to the office or had been down to the office, but I can't tell you in what capacity or when or any of that. No,
Mr. Wade told you that they had sex at the office, though, correct?
I don't recall him saying that. No,
You don't recall.
no.
So it's possible he did say that. You just don't remember one way or another?
I do not remember him saying that.
And do you recall that he had a garage door opener to either a house or a condo or something like that of Miss Willis's?
I've never seen a garage door opener. I've never been to Miss Willis's house. I've never been to, and I'm trying to explain, I've never been, so no, I do not have any personal knowledge of him having a garage door opener.
Let me ask the question again.
Yes, ma'am.
I didn't ask if you have personal knowledge, like as in you saw it. Do you have any knowledge at all from Mr. Wade or any source that he had a garage door opener to access one of Miss Willis's residence?
And I'll object to any source as to hearsay.
All right. Depends on the source. Overruled.
No, I don't have any knowledge.
So when you told me that, did you just make it up?
Do you have something that shows that I told you that?
Yes, we're going to go through all the texts we can, but so was that made up though?
I'm going to object because I
don't recall him having.
Mr. Bradley, just a
I'm
second.
objected, or 106 is the rule of completeness. I don't have that text message or any text messages that indicate that, Your Honor.
And I don't have, if it was a text, we had that conversation. I actually think it was when he was on speakerphone and Mr. Merchant was there, but I'm not sure. But I mean, if I'm asked to qualify exactly where that's from, I would.
Okay, so rule of completeness would be if you need to introduce other text to show the context. If you're saying you haven't seen a copy yet, then I think Ms. Merchant needs to do that before you can
And I don't
decide
have.
the next step.
And that's what I was asking him. If that was something he just remembers making up. If he doesn't, then That's fine, but
She referenced text messages and started to go into her packet of papers.
Sure.
And I've texted
So you don't have a text message to that?
I would need some time to look through, and I don't remember if I have a text to that or if it was during a conversation. It was one of those.
All right, well,
And I'm-
he has now said that he has no knowledge, so on to your next question.
Okay. Did Mr. Wade tell you about the trips that he and Miss Willis took?
No.
Do you have any knowledge of the trips that he and Miss Willis took?
objection, hearsay.
Overruled.
I do now.
Okay. But you did not before this proceeding?
I did not know until you text that you found that in the deposition of his divorce. I mean, not deposition, but something from his divorce.
Okay. And when you responded, doesn't surprise me, they took many trips to Florida, Texas, California. Those are your words, though, right?
I'm going to object as to relevance. He said he did not know, and he actually learned from Ms. Merchant the information.
He said he learned about certain trips from Miss Merchant.
Okay, you can tie it down, but
Thank you.
we'll see.
He had no information on any trips that Ms. Willis and Mr. Wade took. That he learned it all from Ms. Merchant. That was his testimony.
Sure.
Judge, I'm
Maybe
allowed
the conclusion we reach. I think she's going to ask more than one question. All right, Ms. Merchant.
And if Judge, just so we can be clear, if he said more than one version, that's all relevant. We're allowed to talk about the different versions that he's told.
All right, I've overruled the
Thank
objection,
you.
Ms. Merchant.
Do you remember telling me that it didn't surprise you that they took the trips that I found in the divorce file because they took many trips to Florida, Texas, California? And then you told me that they took the trip to California when she moved her daughter there because she failed out of FAMU. Do you remember that?
I don't recall that, but if I don't recall.
Okay. Judge, may I approach?
Sure. Okay.
It's in one of the ones I gave you. Look at that. Let me know if it refreshes your memory. Just first let me know if that refreshes your memory.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So, it's true that you told me that they took many trips to Florida, correct?
Per that, yes, but one of the messages is cut off, and you asked about some other trips, and I said, no, I didn't, I think. And that was specific to, at the top of that, it says, no, I didn't.
Yes.
And so that was to the trips that you asked me about. And I think before that, when you mentioned that you found all these trips, I think I said, oh, wow.
Yes, you did.
And
You did not know about all the trips that were taken, and you qualified it. You said, no, I didn't. When did it happen? And then the next text, which I can get, or you can look at your phone, or whatever refreshes your memory, you said was after you left, after the firm was dissolved, correct?
Object to relevance.
Overruled.
It was after the firm, the trips that you said, no, you didn't know about. You told me those were after your firm had dissolved, correct?
I think you mentioned that they were after I left, maybe, or whenever you found them. And I said, no, I didn't know about those trips. So
So you believe I mentioned that it was after you left?
I'm quite sure you have the text message, and I will refresh my memory.
Is it easier for you to refresh your memory with your own phone or with my printouts of screenshots?
Well, you have the printout, so
I know,
I'll have
but Judge, the reason I'm asking is because I'm getting objections that I've cut things off, and it's just the nature of how you have to print out screenshots. So in order to avoid that, I'm happy for him to refresh his memory with his own phone, if that would be...
Well, I don't know if he's accepting your offer or not, so
Would that be easier for you?
you can just provide the documents.
Okay. Let's see.
see what you do.
Sorry, I'm just trying to pull out all of the messages that you made me.
All right. Well, I don't really see at some point we're reaching the cumulative point where we don't need to go through an entire 6-month text chain. You're making the point that he'd made some comments to you along the way that led you to believe he had more knowledge than today he's testifying that he had. And so if you've hit the high points of that, then I don't know what else we can cover that actually moves the needle.
Okay, I'll move on to the actual trips. So you told me that they took many trips to Florida. That refreshed your memory. You told me that. Was that based on your knowledge from Mr. Wade?
That would have been based on anything that my client would have told me. I didn't have personal knowledge of whether they went or not.
The trips to Texas, and you're the one that picked Texas. Was that based on your knowledge from Mr. Wade?
It would have been something that came from the client. I cannot tell you that I have any personal knowledge of any trip other than what would have been said by the client.
Obviously, I'm not asking if you went on these trips. I'm asking if you have knowledge from Mr. Wade. You also texted California. Was that something that you gained from knowledge from Mr. Wade?
It would have been from the client at this particular point. Yes, it would have been from the client.
And when you told me that the trip to California was to move your daughter out there, would that have been something you gained from Mr. Wade?
Thank you, Judge. Any knowledge that I have of any trip would have come from my client at the time.
You told us last week that Mr. Wade used your credit card one time. Do you know when that was?
I do not.
Relevance. Why are we today?
Well, I think this would be an impeachment of Mr. Wade's testimony. Mr. Wade testified that he had never used anyone else's credit card
I
before.
object to ask this because it was covered during the last year where you acknowledged that Mr. Wade used his credit card.
So I asked when.
Just
didn't-
when? Okay,
I didn't ask, did he? I asked, when did he?
let's go there.
I do not have any dates of when Mr. Wade used my credit card. I testified that we used the card for business, and that throughout the business we would order paper or supplies or filing of depositions. The cost factor of cases is what I said, and that still applies today. Did he use my credit card? He did, but I can't tell you who he used that card, what the trip was for. I can't even tell you at this time where he went.
But he used it for a trip.
Yeah, it was for a trip, but I can't tell you where, when, why, or anything to that nature. Correct.
And he paid you back in cash.
I never testified that he paid me back in cash. I said that he would either pay me back. I said I can remember. I do not recall. Sometimes he would write checks. Sometimes he would pay cash. And that still applies today, that I do not recall him paying me back cash, but I do recall him paying me back.
And this was when you were still, before your partnership split up, correct?
It would have been before I left the firm, yes. He wouldn't have used my card after I left the firm.
Okay. So we can at least narrow down the dates to that.
Before I left the firm, yes.
Okay, great. And Mr. Wade gave you details about meeting Miss Willis in Hateville or East Point, as it was called.
That's incorrect.
He did not tell you about that.
He didn't give me details.
He did not tell you about meeting with Miss Willis at an East Point or Hateville apartment?
At this time, I don't recall. No, I don't recall.
Where did you get that information from then?
He has testified he doesn't recall if he even had that information.
I asked if he got it from Mr. Wade, and he says he doesn't recall. So then I asked where he got it from. Where did you get that information from then?
Terrence testified he doesn't recall if he even had that information.
I asked if he got it from Mr. Wade, and he says he doesn't recall. So then I asked where he got it from.
I do not recall where I got the information from.
Okay. And you and Mr. Wade were friends as well as business partners, correct?
We were friends in the sense of I've known him for years. Yes, we were friends.
And you definitely did not want to come and be a witness in this case, correct?
And that was the end of part 2 of Terrence Bradley being recalled to the witness stand. He is what you might call a hostile witness because he really don't want to be there testifying against someone he once called a friend before he left the joint practice that they had. He was called back to the witness stand because the prosecuting attorney said that he wasn't forthright in his answers, and because of what was disclosed, the judge met him and his counsel in chamber, and the judge determined that some of the information that he deemed privileged information between himself and his client, Mr. Wade, was not privileged information between attorney-client. And so he was called back to answer some of those questions again and be a little more forthright. So on that note, I'm over and out. I'll see you guys on the next one. Don't forget to hit the like bell and subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so as yet. Thank you for watching.